I want to speak about perception. I feel like I just discovered I can hear when people lie, as if you can hear something sing out of tune. It's kind of explained a lot, but it sounds nuts and I've no idea what to do with it. I just realized I might be learning to do absolutely nothing with it, just kind of accept it silently, with bothering no one with it ever again, and just look for what brings me to this urge to make others also hear the FA I hear when they think they are singing a do, and just only speak out when people ask. There are more people with an accidentally absolute hearing, right? Or would you say when I hear this is perception? But that really confuses me. I mean, I could be wrong sometimes, but that really confuses me. Okay, so we'll just deal with that one first. So yeah, this whole lying thing, it's a tricky business. It's a tricky business because often they're not conscious that they're lying. So to them, that's their truth. And that's what they feel like their truth is. And really all words are a distortion of what's actually happened. Like no words can really pinpoint. But yeah, it's a complicated dance, and it's not something that you can sum up and you can say this is how to deal with it or this isn't. Like to say I'm never going to say anything again or I'm going to, it's like you're trying to make a plan for yourself in time, whereas really just respond how you respond. You know, when I'm dealing with people and I can see that they're obviously lying, but they're not conscious of it. You know, most of the time the person isn't conscious that they're lying. Even if they're purposely lying, like sometimes they can be, if they're purposely lying, they can be conscious of it. But a lot of the time people aren't, even if they're purposely lying. Like, even if they think, oh, I'm going to tell her a lie, when they tell it, it feels like the truth to them. So it's very complicated. It's not so easy. So say when you're a public speaker, you get so many variety of emails from people. I really try to cut it out now because I think it just wastes a lot of my time dealing with them. I don't mean to be rude, it's really beautiful, but it's really beautiful hearing how much the teachings touched you, but then also it comes with as well lots of other projections. There's sometimes romantic projections, sometimes negative projections. And I read the emails and often I can feel there's something else going on underneath. But, you know, to explain that, it's going to take hours to point that out to someone, hours and hours, because they believe that's true. So say if they have the projection onto me that I can't think of a projection. So say they're saying something like, I saved their life and I'm the best thing that ever happened to them and that they need me or something. And sometimes that can be true and they can be saying it, the exact same words, and I can feel it comes from a really true and beautiful energy. And then sometimes I might be able to perceive that they're saying that in order to try to get me into a relationship, or they're saying that in order to try and make me feel guilty or responsible for them and try and hook me into some sort of mothering relationship. Now, for me to try to point that out to someone, this isn't easy. This is like, hours and hours of work, because to them, they believe that's reality. They believe that I've saved their life, and they can't feel that they're using it as a game to try and hook me into a relationship. They're not even conscious of that. This is why I say often to people, go into your feelings, because your feelings will be more honest than what you think. And say if I met someone at a talk and they came up and said that to me, for me to actually say back to them, that's not true, I can feel you're seeking there. That's not an easy conversation, because instantly they'll feel rejected and abandoned and not loved. So it's not such a simple thing, honesty. Unfortunately, what it's done actually is it's made me now not want to engage in these situations so much. So I'm not, I really like doing retreats because it gives me time to work with people and explore with people. But on these like short weekend talks, I don't enjoy it so much because I can't explore with people so much, and they come up and say things to me like this, or they'll say it in a talk and there's so little time that I can't go into it. So therefore, in a way, I have to just ignore it, and it doesn't feel so great in my body. But at the same time, I have to an extent, use my time wisely, because doing these talks is a lot of energy. So I've now found that I don't like doing weekend talks so much, and I prefer doing retreats where I feel I can say a lot more things to people, and them not, because if you're going to confront something in someone, a lie in something, the first thing they'll feel is that you're rejecting them, because they'll feel that you buying into their story is you accepting them, and you not buying into the story is you rejecting them. And through that rejection, they could either get defensive and angry, they could feel really like rejected, so therefore cut off communication. There's all these different games they can play in response. So it's a dance that you just have to kind of deal and with and dance in the moment, and just be open to seeing the patterns of that. And then also, I'm a big one for tapping into the body and what the body says. And also by not saying something, so by me not saying to someone, I don't believe that, that's seeking energy, by me keeping silent, you've got to see that that is also, in a way, is a form. It's not a lie, but by not saying something, in some way you could say it is a form of a lie. You're not saying your truth, but it's not always appropriate. It really isn't. You know, when you're just leaving to say that to someone, or just, you know, you've got 2 minutes with them. So you have to see on your side that, on your side, you know, you've had to not speak your truth so radically as well. And so I try now to set up my life where I can speak my truth as much as possible, so it can come out as much as possible, where I'm not around people where it's too much for them to handle, or it's too short a time to deal with it with people. Because it just never feels good not to be able to speak what you're thinking. Like this is, or speak what you feel. We don't like this. The other thing is about what you just spoke about. I've a very passive pattern, always excusing people for crossing my boundaries. Yeah. And I've no idea how to put a boundary against aggression. I don't get it when others put one. I don't understand why you put the boundary to open Han, for example. Hun, not Han. Hun. For this instant. I feel for him. That confronts me a lot. I could never do that unless lightning hits my head. This will stay my main struggle, probably. But you do, in some certain circumstances, put up boundaries. I remember you getting angry with me on retreat, but normally what you do is you don't put up your boundaries, and then the anger bubbles and bubbles, and then you explode. Trust me, Open Eye Hun needs a boundary. and it's also, you could also look at you and people having boundaries with you, like how that makes you feel as well. You can look at that as well. And open eye Hun know he needs a boundary as well. Like, I mean, if you hear some of the stuff he's saying to me, he knows he needs a boundary as well. I have been a bit playful with him because he's also playful as well. I've also got annoyed as well with him. But yeah, this is my pattern as well, is my pattern is that I can infinitely justify and feel compassion for people no matter what they do. But that doesn't mean that you continuously let them in your life. And this is still something I'm learning and growing about, to be honest with you. You know, being a non-duality teacher has really made me confront this issue. There's so many people asking to come and see me. You know, one thing I find a bit painful is with people that come to my talks. I love fairness, and some people I want to spend time with, and some people I don't. And there's no real reason to it. It just comes up that way. You know, when I was younger, I would spend time with people that I didn't want to spend time with because I felt sorry for them. And I felt like that was the fair thing to do. I had to equally spend time with people that I didn't like as with the people I did like, if they wanted to spend time with me. And you know, and then in the end I would get angry with them and be rude to them or something because I didn't want to spend time with them. And I'd play out weird games with them. And this isn't the way. You have to do what you feel like doing, and just know that you're conditioned and you're not bad ultimately. And the more honest you are with yourself, the less mean you'll be. But you know, you can't help liking people, more people, having more of attraction to some over others. So there's all these different games that you just be aware of. And I've had to learn the hard way that, you know, you can infinitely forgive people, but they'll do the same thing again and again and again until they've worked out their issue. And I used to think it was so beautiful and it's so sweet. Maybe I still have this conditioning a little, is if you just love them enough, they'll change, but it's just not true. They have to go through their journey. And maybe the best thing you can ever do to them is reject them, or to reject them very firmly. But you know, we're taught all these things as women, as kids, that we have to always be open and receptive, that we're not allowed to say no. So it's really good to confront. But you got to ask yourself why, like, so with Open Eye Hun, like when you read out the question, you know, he basically was calling me crazy. It wasn't a nice question again today. Like, some of the stuff was nasty towards me. And I know that he doesn't ultimately mean it, and I have compassion, but that's not my job, just to take somebody's nastiness and just to be passive to it. Sometimes the best thing you can do to someone or for someone is to stand up and tell them that that's not okay to treat you like that. That's the most compassionate thing you can do, and to cut it off. But you know, this is something that I still work on, is boundaries. That's why I got Khaleesi. Khaleesi's been a great lesson, because Khaleesi doesn't like people touching her, and people struggle with that. I understand why it is. I've thought about it a lot. So if I say to them, don't touch her, she doesn't like it, they can either say, that's you projecting to her if they're spiritual, or how do you know she is what she is, da, 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 da. And I've watched loads of training videos about it, and basically all the videos say the same thing, is that when you've got a dog that's nervous of humans, the worst thing you can do as a human is let people invade them and touch the head and keep touching them. You've got to stand up and say no. And so some people, a lot of people argue it, to be honest. Some people are respectful of it, but they'll say, that's you're making her like that. If you just let me interact with her, she'll be fine. It's your energy that's making her like that. Or they'll say, no, I'm really good with dogs, it's fine. And she always does it. Like 99.99999% of the time she does it. And then sometimes people that come to my talks, they're like, I want to see if I'm the time when she doesn't do it, if I've got good enough energy. And basically, she just wants to be left alone until she can trust you, until she feels relaxed around you. And so I tell people, as soon as I see someone stroking her, I always am saying no. And a lot of people don't, not a lot of people, I would say maybe like 30% of people don't listen. So maybe 70% do, or 60% do. And at the retreat, they were super good, but and because she's very cute looking, and because she looks like a wolf, she's so different looking, I find people in the street are constantly coming up to me. And maybe men are using it also as a way to chat me up as well. And when I say to them she doesn't want to be touched, they feel a bit embarrassed. So then they go for it and touch her. And then she snaps at them. And they say in the book that don't let her repetitively snap, because then she's getting into that habit. So you as the owner have got to be super firm with people. And, you know, and sometimes I have to say, look, I just told you not to touch her, which is so harsh, and it's not my personality. What is it that you don't understand about that? You're upsetting my dog, and it's so harsh, and I find it painful saying it to people, but I have to protect her. That's the most important thing, and it's what all the dog trainers say, is that the more your dog gets invaded, the more vicious she'll become if she's got a fear of humans. So yeah, it's embarrassing, and people can get really, it's like hurt by it. No, I'm really good with dogs, I've done, and then she snaps them, and then they're like, your dog's vicious, and you're like, and yeah, but she makes it, because I don't like seeing her distressed, so I don't like seeing her snap at people, so it makes me have that fire to say no to people. And it's good, it's repetitive, daily I'm having to do it, because I'm always out walking her, and we get to the market. I take her everywhere with me, I take her on retreats. So you have to see those feelings inside you, and the best way you can do it, don't overthink it, because I know that your mind can overthink. Just go into the feeling of it, and you'll actually find that your boundaries are there, but they can just be super weak. So you just have to quickly put your attention there. And I found after the awakening, because my feelings changed so much, like I was so much more accepting and open. It's like I had to be even quicker with my boundaries. So somebody said, would you like to do something? And it's like, I don't really care. Like, I'm so blissed out and happy. So it's like I have to be really like super quick into the feeling of if it's a yes or a no. Because then other people can be quite pushy, and then you get wrapped up in their pushy energy. Neo says, thanks for the greatest satsang today. Well, I try. I'm joking, I don't try. I just let it come up. I'm a yakka box, a yakka. I also think that I'm a better speaker if that day I haven't been speaking with other people too much about non-duality. Like if I've been speaking to other people a lot about non-duality and working through their issues, then by the time it comes to the evening talk, I can't be bothered to speak. I just am ready to sit in silence. So it's better if on the days that I do talks, I'm not talking all day prior, or I do the talk in the morning or something. Last thing, in these days I get angry now with everyone that breathes passivity. Typical, haha. Oh, I find it all so shameful. But to come back to the projection, when people say it's all perception, I find it's trying to teach people compassion and get that, but I feel it makes people more passive. Yeah, this is what I came to realize. I came to realize it through last year. I think I've talked about this before. I did business with someone and I was really passive with all the contracts and everything, and I lost a lot of stuff to that person, and it was through my own passivity, like just rather bliss out. And it's a habit as well of mine to be too passive. It's a most probably women habit that women have been taught, and then also through my conditioning. And then I lost a lot of stuff. It was really painful. I really got screwed over in business, and it really made me see how, non-duality also teaches it, because the human reconditions itself with the idea that nothing matters and that it's all projection, which it is true, it is all projection, but that doesn't mean letting everyone constantly get away with stuff and treating you not correctly. Because at the time with those contracts, I actually felt that there was something not okay, and they said to me, oh, this is just trust issues from your past. And they said that to me to try to get me to not realize the stuff in the contract. Like, they said, that's your projection. And when they said that, I was like, oh. And I'm so conditioned in that from non-duality and from waking up that I just kind of accepted it and didn't. I thought, oh. But I remember feeling at the time, hang on, there's something not right here. And so you do have to see that everything is projection. Like, everything is a thought, everything is a projection, but these bodies are conditioned in certain ways to deal with life as well and to survive. And so it's seeing that none of that's you. So when they even said that, it was like, could be, and it's not. It's seeing that none of that is who you are. Who you are is this boundlessness. But on the human level, you do need to function in a world that is still identified. And not always, you see, as the victim, in a way, you want to take on the responsibility of the other person, because it's easier to forgive yourself than it is to see what the other's done, to really see what they've done. Not to forgive yourself. It's easier to forgive and blame yourself than to really see what the other's done. To really stand naked and look at that. But I think that, I say it's still an issue of mine. I think in terms of humans, I'm pretty good now with the boundaries, and speaking stuff out. But it's still something that I noticed, especially from years and years of it's all projection, of then when I did have a feeling like I then took too much responsibility of thinking it's projection. So just keep exploring what the sensations are and see that the absolute and the relative are different. And yes, like, all that hatred that you project onto people isn't true, and it's so good breaking that. But then also not using that as an excuse to take on everything on board as yourself. I'm at fault here, because that's the victim. It's always my fault. I'm at fault here. I'm guilty. And I feel like, I hear other non-duality speaking now, and I just want to add in, but hang on, if you're a victim type personality, see that, understand that, but don't let that become a new victim mentality of being too passive.